So, Gamakay reached out to me and sent me over the TK101 since we've been reviewing so many budget, full size, or full size adjacent keyboards. Let's unbox it and see what they have to offer. So, the first thing you're met with when you unbox the keyboard is your guide. This is a handy information pamphlet to tell you all about the keyboard, how to connect it between wireless, Bluetooth, and USB, as well as your function keys to change things like RGB lighting and modes. It's definitely a handy guide to have when you're learning a new keyboard, so make sure you keep that around. Next up is your combo keycap and switch puller. Since it is a hot swappable mechanical keyboard, it's definitely a handy tool. This is your standard affair, nothing fancy, but it does the job when you need it. Lastly is your USB cable. It is a 1.5 meter USB cable. It's your standard affair, nothing fancy here, but if it gets the job done, yeah, it gets the job done. And that's about it for the unboxing. So let's look at the keyboard itself. What you can see here is a 98%, it has the centered compact row, it's 101 keys in total, and at first glance, it's not a bad looking keyboard. Now one thing I did immediately notice is that the keycaps seem to have a different texture. It's not super noticeable or anything like that, and it wouldn't interrupt my typing experience, but it was just something that I noticed while sliding my fingers across the keycaps. While doing this, I also wanted to check the stabilizers to see if they were rattly or inconsistent, and to my surprise, they felt pretty good. Now the other thing is, it's a gasket mounted keyboard, so I wanted to check flex, and the keyboard does definitely have plenty of flex. One thing I was actually surprised in is the flex felt very even across the board. I didn't feel any low spots or anything that really stood out, which was surprising for a budget keyboard. Usually budget keyboards that have gasket mounts will have different spots of inconsistency. Now flipping to the back side, we can see that we only have a product tag in the bottom right corner that's just a sticker, which is honestly really nice. I like having a really clean back of the keyboard, and this does that. Now we also have our dual stage flip up feet, and then we'll check how they lock, and at this height, they definitely lock right in place. I don't see these collapsing at all. As you can see, the keyboard can be pushed around with them flipped up. Now checking our second setting, these aren't as solid. These really don't lock anywhere, so you'll be relying on the tilt angle of the keyboard to make sure these stay in place. Now, if you don't use those, you do have your 6 rubber feet at the bottom here to ensure that you also don't slide your keyboard around your desk. Now, moving on to the top edge here, we have our wireless dongle for our 2.4, along with our USB-C for our wired connection, and then our switcher between Bluetooth, wired, and 2.4. We also have a nice satisfying peel that you can go ahead and take off. This reveals our mirrored piece of plastic. Now, I know what you're thinking, is it going to be a fingerprint magnet? And as always, it definitely is. I don't see a reason that you would be reaching back here and touching it, but do know it's a mirrored surface. It's going to attract fingerprints, so just be aware of that. All in all, it does look pretty good. I don't hate the aesthetic. I think it looks nice, but again, keep your greasy fingers away from it so you don't have to deal with the fingerprints. Lastly, on the front edge, we have our Gamakay logo, and that's about it for aesthetics. Now, overall, it's definitely a good looking keyboard. I think they've made some interesting design choices, but I would love to dive in further and see what we're working with inside the keyboard. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab our keycap and switch puller, pull off our keycap, and we'll start there. So diving in, take a closer look, we can see that our MDA double shot PBT keycaps have edge to edge color. They have really crisp and clean legends, but again, they feel a tad rough, maybe a little scratchy. It's not really too big of a problem with me, and you can swap them out if you don't like them. So all in all, an okay keycap, I would say. Next, we'll go ahead and pull out a switch, and we'll take a closer look at that. So these are the Gamakay Pluto switches. They're a 50-gram tactile switch. They are pre-lubed. The tactile bump isn't super noticeable on the actuation, but it is there. And I have some thoughts on them, as in they don't feel consistent. And I think that's due to the lube job. The fact is that some of them felt kind of scratchy when I was typing on them, but it didn't feel like that for all of them. Also, there was a noticeable amount of stem wobble, a little bit more than usual on a regular stemmed switch. So I would definitely consider lubing these or maybe swapping them if you're going to run this keyboard on the daily. But nonetheless, let's keep diving into the keyboard and see what we're working with. So with the keycaps off and the switches out, we can see what we're working with when it comes to the plate and our stabilizers. The first thing we'll notice, we have a flex cut polycarbonate plate, and our stabilizers are pre-lubed, but they're a tad wobbly. Now, honestly, there's not a ton of lube on these, and they're not super wobbly, and they sounded and felt pretty good. It was actually pretty surprising. I was expected to see much more lube than was actually here. So we're going to continue leaving those alone, and we'll dive into the keyboard some more. Now, the first thing we're looking for is some screws holding this keyboard together, and where we don't see any on the plate, we flip it over to the back and we check under the feet just to be sure. They always hide screws back here, so you always want to double check before trying to rip a keyboard apart. Confirming there's nothing back here, it's going to be a pry tool situation. Now, honestly, this is a pretty easy keyboard to separate. The pry tool goes into the seam really easily. You just work your way around, unclipping all the clips. In some areas, all you need to do is pull back the top case slightly and the clips will pop right out. Once you do that, the top of the case separates without any issues. Once we have it off, we can confirm, again, it's all plastic as expected, and there's really nothing to it. So we'll go ahead and set that aside and we'll continue diving into the keyboard. Now, to be completely honest with you, the first thing I noticed here was that the gasket mount locations don't have socks or dumbbells on them. They were just tabs that were sitting on a bed of foam. I was actually really surprised at this. So you can actually see me pause and take a moment to be like, oh, well, that's an interesting choice. But nonetheless, let's continue diving in and we'll flip our PCB away from us so we can go ahead and separate our connectors. Now here you'll see our battery connector and our daughter board connector. They're pretty simple to pull out. These clips aren't held in really tightly, which is honestly refreshing. And once we have them connected, now we can separate our PCB and our plate from our case. Now that we have our plate and our PCB in hand, we can see that the plate is held on by a couple screws here on the back. And then there's also no adhesive or anything on the back of the PCB. But we'll come back to that, so we'll set that aside and we'll focus on the case for a second. So the first thing I want to look at was the foam used for the gasket mount, and it's almost like a memory foam. It's not like regular foam, at least it didn't feel like it, which was a pretty cool touch. Also, the foam at the bottom of the case was a bit thicker than we usually see for keyboards in this price range, and it also felt kind of nicer. I know foam can't have a ton of different ways foam does foam, but it definitely felt nicer than previous foams I used. So yeah, that was a cool touch. But then setting that aside, I thought this was a film at the bottom of the case. And then I started touching it and feeling it and realizing that it's not really a film. So I also tried to pry it up to confirm if it was a film, but it doesn't really pry up. And then I started noticing it was screwed in. And then I was like, huh, never really seen that. So we grabbed a screwdriver and we're going to try to unscrew it. I'll go ahead and speed up this process because it's just me taking out a few screws. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know if I've seen this design before, but honestly, it's a plastic insert into the bottom of the case. And we can actually take it out. There's also another thing that was pretty surprising once taking this insert out, is that the battery was adhered to the bottom of it. I know some people worry about batteries and wish that people would more securely put them in a separate compartment. So maybe this is to answer that worry. And honestly, I mean, innovating or making changes like that is definitely neat to see. I thought it was definitely a cool touch. I don't know if I've ever seen a keyboard have an insert into the bottom. I know there's aluminum keyboards and other keyboards that have separate compartments for their batteries, but I don't know of one that has a specific insert of dual layers of plastic that go into the bottom. But it was kind of neat to see. Now we also did notice taking the insert out does make the plastic more flexible as expected. And while we're back here, we might as well talk about the battery, which is a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It gives you about 20 hours of use with RGB and 400 hours of use without RGB. I was able to use mine for about 4 days before recharging it. So yeah, not too shabby. Now, honestly, one thing that I would definitely be curious in is if you ran this without a battery and then didn't put this insert back in and then modded it without the insert to see how different the sound signature would be. So if that's something you'd be interested, you want to see me mod the keyboard, let me know in the comments below and we'll definitely consider modding this thing. But other than that, I think it's time to go ahead and put this back in and then we'll switch over to our PCB and our plate and see what we're working with over there. So, confirmed previously, our plate is held on by some screws. Luckily, our PCB doesn't have any foam or adhesive on the back of it, so we're free to grab a screwdriver and go ahead and get those screws out. Once you have all the screws out, we can go ahead and separate our plate from our PCB. It's pretty simple to do. You'll just lift off your plate. It should be completely free. It might snag on the foam a little bit, but other than that, it comes right off. Here you can see we have our polycarbonate flex cut plate. It's honestly a pretty nice plate. I don't see any blemishes or anything like that. Underneath that, we have our foam. I do like that we have some foam here. It aids in the sound and feel and the typing experience of the keyboard, and I really like foam, so I'm a little biased. Underneath that, we also have pour-on foam, or also known as a switch pad. I do like running a switch pad as well. Looking at this, again, I don't see any blemishes, I don't see any cuts or anything like that, so we'll go ahead and set that aside and keep diving in, bringing us to the top of our PCB. Now if you look closely, you can see the light reflection, and that's due to the film that's actually on top of the PCB. The film is pretty adhered on, so you will definitely need to work to get this off. There are some slight edges to it, so I think it would be pretty simple to get it off, to be honest with you. But I do like that we have film here. I like running films, so that's definitely a win in my book. Now lastly, we want to confirm that we have south-facing RGB and we have 3-pin, 5-pin hot swap sockets in case we didn't cover it before. Also, that ends the dive into the keyboard. So it's time to go ahead and reassemble everything, and then we'll head over, set up the software, go over it, and then we'll see how it sounds, followed by my thoughts on it. Alright, we have everything put back together. Now it's time to install some software. We'll head over to the Gamakay website. We're going to locate the download tab. Underneath that, you'll see the software tab. We'll click on that, head down to TK101, and then you'll download the TK101 software. Once you have your software installed, let's go ahead and go over some of the tabs. Starting with the main tab. This is where you'll change your key assignments. You can change some of the actions, such as changing a key to a play and pause. You select confirm once you want to change the action to, and now that key has been reassigned to do that action. Remember that if you uncheck it, it actually doesn't change the key. You need to physically reset it. So you select the reset button. If you want to change it again, you'll make your combination, hit confirm. Now that action is set. Now remember, you can't actually change it like you do in VIA, to where like every key could be reassigned to be a different key, but this is definitely more targeted for every key could be reassigned to be a combination or a macro or a media key. It's definitely an alright setup, but it's definitely not ideal. Now there's also other settings in here where you can adjust your key sensitivity. You can adjust detect OS automatically. So if you change between Mac and Windows a lot, that might be handy. There's also your timeouts for your wireless. We have RGB on or not. On another tab, you have your function settings where you can change different function combinations. You also can record your own macros, and you can adjust lighting. Here you can adjust your speed, your brightness, and just your light modes in general. There's also some functionality to create your own RGB if you want to do that as well. If you do want to download or make your own RGB, you can also share it under the Share tab, and then you can also view your information under the My Account tab. Lastly, you have your About section where you can upgrade and change firmware, as well as just the appearance or actions of the software itself. Now, one last thing I would like to note is that it does say that the keyboard is QMK compatible. If you're familiar with QMK, I would definitely give it a shot because, again, I'm not a huge fan of standalone software, so I would definitely be interested in that if I was going to be using this as my daily keyboard. But all in all, that's an overview of the software. Let me know what you thought, and let's move on to hear how the keyboard sounds stock. So, time for some final thoughts. And first, I want to start by what are we getting for $60 that we're not getting out of the $30 price range or the $50 price range? Well, it is tri-mode, so it's wireless, Bluetooth, and USB. It has OK switches. It has OK keycaps. It's gasket mounted. The internals are pretty good. And it's got a decent sized battery. But what are we missing? Well, for me, the downside was software for sure. As in, I don't want to use third-party software when VIA exists, and it's so much easier and more robust. The keycaps definitely don't feel great. They feel a touch scratchy, and the surfaces are a bit inconsistent, and then the switches being inconsistently lubed were definitely kind of a downer. Now, we've seen both better on keyboards that are more affordable or at this price range, but again, they weren't full-size or full-size adjacent. We continue to run into this problem where counterparts are so much better, but they're not the size we wanted. Now, just like the last one we did, I do think just lubing the switches and changing out a set of keycaps would fix the problems that I'm running into with this keyboard. And at that point, I would definitely say the keyboard's not bad. It has a 1000 Hz polling rate, so it's a nice quick keyboard. The battery life was excellent for me. The RGB is nice and vibrant. So all in all, it's definitely not a bad pickup. Change those couple things and you have a really solid keyboard on your hands. But nonetheless, I think the quest continues to try to find the best budget full-size or full-size adjacent keyboard, even though that's the end of this video. And if you're still here, you could drop a like and hit subscribe. That would mean the world to me. And if you want to check out the TK101 for yourself, there'll be a link in the description box below. And that's it, the end. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, keep keyboarding.